Level 1, the laborer. You pull into the job site before sunrise on your first day, and nobody asks who you are. Your name hasn't earned any value here yet. What matters is whether you can carry heavy material without slowing everyone else down. What matters is whether you'll still be moving at the same pace 4 hours from now. You're wearing brand new work boots that still look clean enough to return. By the end of today, they'll never look new again. Before lunch, your feet are already covered in hot spots and blisters. By the end of the week, the pain stops feeling unusual. Your body eventually learns that soreness isn't a valid excuse here. Someone points at a shovel leaning against a pile of dirt. Nobody explains what the trench is for. You start digging. That's the entire briefing. You are the lowest person on the entire project. Every electrician, plumber, carpenter, and laborer, with one extra month of experience, outranks you. You spend the day moving material from one end of the site to the other. You drag equipment through mud, dust, gravel, and uneven ground. You stand there holding materials while skilled workers do the work that actually requires experience. At the end of every shift, you're the cleanup crew. You throw away broken forms, scrap wood, bent metal, and anything nobody else wants to touch. Somehow, every piece of trash is heavier than it looks. You're constantly sent to grab tools you've never heard of before. When you bring back the wrong one, everyone suddenly knows your name. You learn quickly because mistakes are expensive. Nobody officially fires you. They simply stop calling. Summer is usually the first thing that breaks new workers. The dirt, steel, and concrete trap heat like an oven. You drink water all morning and still feel dehydrated. Men old enough to be your father somehow move faster than you. They've already survived this stage years ago. Nobody rushes over to help you. Respect is earned one day at a time. A lot of new hires don't make it to their first paycheck. The ones who stay slowly become builders. Then winter arrives and brings a different kind of misery. Your fingers lose feeling before the first break. Cold steel feels sharp enough to cut through gloves. Every shovel strike feels like hitting concrete. You spend all morning waiting for lunch. Then lunch lasts 15 minutes. None of this looks like the version of construction you imagined. You thought you'd spend your days building things. Right now, you're just surviving. The building part comes later if you last long enough to reach it. Around your third week, quitting starts to sound reasonable. You sit alone in your truck after work staring through the windshield. Your hands ache. Your back aches. Your shoulders ache. Nobody would blame you for walking away. The next morning, you show up anyway. Nobody congratulates you for it. Construction doesn't reward people for showing up. It punishes the people who don't. Level 2, the apprentice. You are still carrying things, just not all day anymore. Someone noticed you were still there, not because you were good, not because you made an impression, simply because you did not leave. A journeyman electrician, plumber, or carpenter agrees to take you on. Someone finally starts teaching you a specific trade. The pay is slightly better, the work is slightly more interesting. The expectations are dramatically higher. You are learning a trade that takes 3 to 4 years to learn properly. A skilled worker tells you to go get a tool. This time, you know exactly what they are talking about. That sounds like nothing. But a few months ago, it was not nothing. Every trade has its own language. At first, everything sounds like a foreign language. Then one day you realize you've been speaking it without noticing. Your journeyman has been doing this longer than you have been alive. He does not explain, he does something. You watch, then you do it. That is the entire teaching method. When you get it wrong, he does not yell. He looks at you in a way that makes you wish he had yelled instead. You tear out what you did and start over. You tear out a lot of work in the first year. Every time you tear something out, money walks out the door. He does not say that. You already know it. Nobody here speaks the language of patience. They only speak the language of time and money. You learn to translate every mistake you make into that language. You learn to read blueprints. The first month, they are a code you cannot crack. By month 6, they start making sense. By the end of the first year, you look at a flat sheet of paper and see a building. Nobody tells you when that happens. It just happens. You learn code requirements. Building code, electrical code, plumbing code, fire code, mechanical code. Every trade has a rulebook written by engineers who studied catastrophic failures. An inspector can show up at any time, no warning. They do not care how many hours you worked that day. Failing an inspection means tearing out your work and doing it over. That gets your journeyman's attention in the wrong way. At night, you go to trade school. After 10 hours on the site, you sit in a classroom and try to keep your eyes open. Your hands are stiff from gripping tools all day. Holding a pencil feels like holding something that belongs to someone else. The program requires 4 years of full-time work combined with study and testing. You keep a logbook that documents every hour you have worked. Some people start this program and never finish. They are still here, still doing the same jobs, watching people who started after them move up. You know who they are. You do not want to become them. Your body is changing in ways you did not choose. Your hands are thicker. Your forearms are denser. You have calluses in places you did not know calluses could form. Your back hurts every morning when you get out of bed. You are 22 years old, and you stretch in the parking lot before your shift like a 45-year-old man. Nobody finds that funny. Everyone here does the same thing. You do not mention the pain because nobody mentions the pain. This is not the kind of place where people talk about things like that. Pain is the price of admission. Level 3, the journeyman. 4 years go by faster than you expected. Then one day you walk into a licensing exam, you pass, you have your card. Electrician, plumber, ironworker, carpenter, pipe fitter, sheet metal worker. The next morning you show up to work like any other day. The industry does not care about personal milestones. Concrete still needs to be poured. Walls still need to go up. But something has changed. For the first time, your name carries weight. You are a journeyman now. Nobody stands behind you anymore. Nobody checks your work before you move forward. You are trusted to get it right every time. And when you get it wrong, there is nobody else to blame. Just you. You work with your tools, your knowledge, and your scarred hands every day. You look at a blueprint and see the building, not the lines. You walk into an unfinished structure and know immediately where the problem is, a problem that someone less experienced would spend hours trying to find. You can hear when a motor is starting to fail before it actually fails. You can feel when a joint is not fully seated just by touching it. You can smell an electrical overload before there is any visible sign. Nobody taught you those things. Your body learned them through thousands of repetitions until they became reflex. Journeymen and strong union locals earn $40 to $60 an hour. During peak months, you work 60, 70 hours a week. Your college friends sit in air-conditioned offices wondering whether AI is going to eliminate their jobs. You do not wonder about that. Everyone pays a different kind of price. You are 28 years old, but your body feels older than that. Your knees forecast the weather more accurately than any app on your phone. Your lower back has a specific point of tightness that you have learned to live with because there is no other option. You know exactly which muscles will hurt tomorrow just by looking at what you did today. The apprentices think you are the experienced one. The veterans think you are still learning. Both are right. For the first time, you understand something nobody ever explained when you were starting. Out. You never truly finish learning this trade. You just become the person responsible for more things. Your best work is hidden behind freshly painted walls, under polished floors, above drywall ceilings that the homeowner will never look up at. Nobody walks into a building and admires the electrical panel. Nobody thanks the plumber when the water runs perfectly. Your best work is invisible to the world. That used to bother you. It does not anymore. You know what you built, even if nobody else does. You start to notice who stays in this trade and who leaves. The ones who stay like solving problems with their hands. They like ending a day and seeing proof of what they accomplished. The ones who leave want something this trade cannot offer. Comfort, stability. A body that does not break down before 40. Nobody is wrong. They just differ in what they are willing to trade away. You do not blame them. You just cannot understand why anyone would want to do something else. This work leaves marks on your body, but it also leaves something on this city. And you are part of that. Level 4. The foreman. One morning, the superintendent pulls you aside and asks you a very simple question. Do you think you are ready to manage a crew? Then he hands you one. 6 people, maybe 8. Yesterday, your job was to finish your own work. Today, your job is to make sure other people finish theirs. You are responsible for their output, their safety, and their problems. This is a completely different skill from anything you have learned before. Nobody trains you for this transition. You learn by making mistakes and adjusting. Your crew is a mix of personalities and skill levels. 2 people who know their job without being told. Someone who works hard but keeps making careless mistakes. A veteran who has been doing this longer than you have been alive and resents taking direction from someone younger. Someone who always has a reason to show up late with stories that get more creative every week. You have to make all those people produce one result. You manage each person differently. It changes depending on who you are talking to and what they need. You start every morning before the crew arrives. You assign tasks based on the master schedule. You calculate what has to happen today, this week, this month. The site is a chain. The plumber cannot start until the framer finishes his section. The electrician cannot pull wire until plumbing rough-in passes inspection. Drywall cannot close until every trade behind those walls is done. Every crew is a link. When your link slows down, everyone behind you stops. That cascading delay is your responsibility now. Every day has things outside your control, material delivered wrong, an inspector showing up at the worst possible moment, weather rewriting the plan you made yesterday. You cannot control those things. You can only control how fast you deal with them before the whole crew gets affected. You are caught in the middle. Your workers complain to you about conditions, about the pace being too fast, about missing materials. The superintendent pushes you harder every morning meeting. You cannot make both sides happy at the same time, and both sides are looking to you. You go home and your wife asks how your day was. You say fine. You always say fine. Not because everything is fine, but because explaining the truth would take all night. Then one day, someone gets hurt. You drive him to the hospital. You call his wife, you sit in the waiting room until you know he is going to be okay. The investigation starts with you. Did you hold the safety meeting that morning? Did you check the fall protection? Did you notice the wet surface or the exposed wire? An accident in your crew is your failure even when it is not your fault. You fill out the incident report. You do not sleep that night. The next morning, you show up to the site, you run the safety meeting, you assign the work, you keep going like nothing happened. That is when you understand what a foreman really means. Not the one who builds the structure with his own hands, but the one who builds the people who will. Level 5, the superintendent. One day they stop assigning you to manage a crew. They assign you to manage the entire site. What you carry now is a two-way radio, a cell phone, and a rolled-up set of construction documents under your arm. Every trade, every crew, every delivery, every inspection, every safety briefing, all of it flows through you. 5:30 in the morning, you are already on site. Nobody else is there yet. You walk the site alone, not to enjoy the view, but because the site changes overnight in ways nobody tells you about. Formwork shifted by rain. Materials staged in the wrong place blocking the crane path. Standing water where tomorrow's concrete pour is scheduled. You find something wrong every single morning without exception. The site is a living thing. It does not stand still and wait for you. The morning meeting has every foreman sitting in front of you. Each one has a plan. Not every plan is workable. The electrical crew cannot start because the plumbing crew has not finished their rough-in. The plumbing crew is waiting on an inspection that was supposed to happen yesterday, and the inspector has not shown up. 12 workers are standing around. The clock is running. You call the inspection office directly. You find the electrical crew work on another floor while they wait. You are doing two things at once before 8 in the morning. That is a skill no program teaches. The project manager calls from the office. The owner wants the deadline moved up 2 weeks. You look at the schedule, there is nowhere to pull from. You say that directly. The project manager says figure it out anyway. You hang up and stare at the schedule for half an hour. You rearrange crew sequences. You add Saturdays for a month. You call in favors from subcontractors who owe you from past jobs. Every call's a concession you will have to pay back later. You compress 2 weeks out of a schedule that had no room. That is why they chose you. You meet with million-dollar owners in clothes stained with concrete dust. They wear suits, you wear safety gear. Nobody finds that strange. This is a construction site. Results are what matter, not what you are wearing when you create them. The pay is significantly better than a foreman, but your family pays the price. You leave before your kids wake up. You come home after they are already asleep. Your wife tells you the kids are growing up without you. She is right. One night you come home and your son is already asleep. You sit on the edge of his bed and watch him. It is the first time in 2 weeks you have seen his face. You promise this will be the last project like this. You have been making that promise for 6 years straight. You do not know how to stop because the site always needs you more than anything else does. Safety is something you never delegate to anyone else. Every worker on the site is your responsibility. The labor inspector can show up at any time without notice. One serious violation shuts the site down. One fatality ends your career, and not just your career. You were once on a site where someone died. You do not talk about it with anyone. But every morning you inspect the fall protection harnesses with a focus that new workers find strange. The veterans do not ask why, they understand, or they have their own story. Level 6, the project manager. You are in the office now, a construction trailer or the company headquarters. You have a desk buried in submittals and a phone that rings constantly. Your project is worth $40 million. That is not the building you are constructing. That is the number you are managing. Every dollar has an address, every day of delay has a price, every design change comes with an invoice attached. But the company does not have $40 million in the bank. Money from the owner comes in monthly draws. Money going out to subcontractors follows the same cycle. If the owner pays late by 1 week, you spend that week calling every subcontractor explaining why the money has not arrived. If they do not get paid, they stop work. If they stop work, the project falls behind. It all starts from 1 week of late payment. Your real job is not construction. It is making sure the cash flow never stops. Nobody cares about your obstacles. They only care about your numbers. You manage contracts with 15 to 20 subcontractors. Each one is trying to maximize their profit while putting in the minimum effort required. Your job is keeping them within their contract scope without destroying the relationship because you will need them on the next project. It is a game where both sides know the rules, but nobody says them out loud. Subcontractors also send dozens of questions about the drawings every week, dimensions that do not match, missing details. You forward them to the architect. The architect responds 2 weeks later. During those 2 weeks, the work stops. Who is responsible for those 2 weeks? Not the architect, you. You negotiate change orders worth hundreds of thousands of dollars across a table from people negotiating just as hard in the other direction. You review monthly pay applications line by line. You reject invoices for work that was not finished or not done correctly. You sit in rooms with lawyers parsing contract language. Every month you present to the owner. You explain why the project is behind. Weather, design revisions, subsurface conditions nobody predicted. A subcontractor who defaulted halfway through. The owner sits and listens with an expression that does not change. The owner does not want explanations. The owner wants a date and a dollar amount. You provide both. You go back to your desk and figure out how to deliver. Construction is building something surrounded by an ocean of paperwork, contracts, change orders, submittals, requests for information, safety reports, pay applications. The paperwork never stops accumulating. The building rises floor by floor. The paperwork rises faster. You got into this industry because you wanted to build. Now you process documents and manage numbers. You are good at it. That fact bothers you more than you would ever say out loud. Sometimes you stand at the window and look down at the site below. You watch the people working with their hands. You are not sure if you miss it or regret leaving it. You eat lunch at your desk. You answer emails at 10 at night because a subcontractor just sent a revised schedule. You spend half your week in meetings and the other half doing the work those meetings created. Nobody told you project management was like this. Maybe because if they had, fewer people would choose it. You have gained nearly 10 kilograms since you left the field. Your doctor says your blood pressure is high. You tell him you will slow down after this project. He writes it in your file and says nothing more. He has heard that before. Level 7, the estimator. Every project starts with a number. Before the construction drawings exist, before there is a superintendent, before anyone sets foot on the site, someone has to sit down and calculate what all of it is going to cost. That person is you. You sit in front of architectural drawings, structural plans, and mechanical sheets. You calculate the cost of every component: cubic meters of concrete, tons of steel, linear feet of pipe and conduit, square footage of walls, floors, ceilings, and roofing. Every door, every window, every light fixture counted individually. You cannot miss anything. You also price things most people do not know exist: expansion joints, fire stops, vapor barriers, seismic bracing. Things nobody sees when the building is finished, but if they are missing from the estimate, the company will see them in the financial report. Miss one item and the company absorbs a six-figure loss. Miss several and the project bleeds money from day one. You send requests for pricing to dozens of subcontractors and suppliers. You compare 4 or 5 bids for each scope and choose the one that makes the most sense. Not the cheapest, the most sensible. The cheapest bid is sometimes the fastest road to disaster on the site. You assemble everything into one number. That number has to be low enough to beat the competition and high enough to produce a margin. The gap between those two things is narrower than you think. Some competitive bids are won or lost by fractions of a percent. Win too many and your prices are too low, and the company is losing money without knowing it yet. Lose too many and the site has no work and people get laid off. Every proposal is a calculated gamble with the company's money and everyone's livelihood. The workers on site do not know your name. The foremen do not know you exist. The superintendent has never met you. But the number you typed into a spreadsheet 6 months ago is deciding whether they get overtime or not, whether there are enough materials, whether there are enough people. When the project starts cutting back midway through, your quiet mistake in a quiet office becomes the loudest problem on the site. Bid day is the worst day of every month. 6 weeks of work. Every morning with the same set of drawings. Every evening with the same spreadsheet. You have checked every number at least twice. You have called every subcontractor. You have built the proposal from the ground up. The deadline is 2 in the afternoon. At 1:45, a subcontractor calls. Revised pricing. $300,000 different from the original quote. 15 minutes. You do not panic. There is no time to panic. You recalculate, you adjust, you check again, you submit at 1:59, you lean back in your chair. You stare at the ceiling, you will not know the result for 2 weeks. The next morning you open your email. A new set of drawings is waiting. Different project. Deadline in 6 weeks. You open the spreadsheet. You start counting. There is always another estimate. The site never waits for you to rest. Level 8, the Vice President. 25 years ago, you started as a laborer hauling materials and sweeping debris. Now you sit in boardrooms running an entire division of the company. 10 project managers report directly to you. 200 field workers fall under your operation. You oversee $300 million of active work running across dozens of sites. Your job is strategy and risk. You decide which projects to pursue and which to walk away from. You evaluate opportunities worth tens of millions and commit in days. You meet with developers, architects, and government agencies. You pitch your company to owners choosing between 3 or 4 firms. You used to build things with your hands. Now you build relationships. You attend client dinners that cost more than your first month's pay as a laborer. You play golf with people who finance buildings. You are always working, even when it looks like you are relaxing. Nobody hires a construction company at this level. They hire a person they trust with their money and their timeline. You have to be that person. Your reputation took 2 decades to build. One public failure can damage it in a week. One safety incident on the evening news can destroy it overnight. You protect your name the way you used to protect your tools when you were on the site. More carefully, more consistently, because you can replace a tool. There are crises that never appear in any monthly report. Contaminated soil discovered during excavation, the project stops and nobody knows when it will restart. An owner suing the company over schedule delays. A fire on site burning through 2 floors of freshly completed work. You coordinate with lawyers and insurance adjusters. When cameras show up at the site fence, you are the one standing in front of them. Every handshake is a potential project. Every conversation is a quiet interview. You never truly relax because you no longer remember what relaxing looks like. Your wife says you cannot turn it off. She is right. You have not taken a real vacation in 4 years. The last time you tried, you spent 3 days on the phone from the hotel room while your wife, kids went to the beach without you. You promise next year will be different. You know you are lying. Level 9, the company president. You run the entire company, 600 employees, $800 million in annual revenue. Every strategic decision stops at your desk. You sign the contracts, you set the direction, you decide whether the company will spend the next decade building hospitals, bridges, or airports. Your office now looks out over a skyline you helped build. You drive past buildings and remember them not as finished structures but as empty steel frames. You remember the people who stood in them with you. Some are still here, some are not. Construction is one of the deadliest industries in the country. You did not learn that from statistics. You learned it from names. You have stood in front of their caskets and said words that no words could ever be enough for. Some mornings you sit in this office and think about them before you think about anything else. Laborers worry about tomorrow's weather. Foremen worry about this week's progress. Superintendents worry about next month's schedule. You worry about things that do not appear on any construction schedule. Rising interest rates that make developers stop borrowing. Elections that reshape infrastructure budgets. Recessions that wipe out a year of private development in 6 months. You cannot control those things. You can only see them coming earlier than most and prepare. Sometimes preparation is not enough. 2 recessions. 2 times you sat with a list of names and crossed them out one by one. Not because they did anything wrong, but because there was no work left for them. You watched people who had worked with you for 20 years walk out with a box of their belongings. When the economy recovered, you called some of them back. Some came back, some never answered. You do not blame them. You just hope they are okay. You sit on industry boards, you lobby for infrastructure budgets, you testify at city council meetings. You are a lifetime away from that first shovel. The hardest part is not the money or the risk. It is the people. 600 families depend on the decisions you make in a boardroom they will never walk into. Every contract you sign is food on their tables. Every contract you lose takes it away. You think about that when you are deciding whether to bid aggressively or play it safe. You think about the field workers who have no savings to cover a slow quarter. You think about the project managers with mortgages and kids in college. The weight of hundreds of families is a real weight. You feel it in your chest every morning before you walk into the office. Then you walk in, then you sign, then you keep going. That is the job. Level 10, the legacy. You retire on a Friday morning, no big party, no formal ceremony. A small gathering in the familiar conference room. A few people you have worked alongside for 30 years. They hand you a handshake and a framed photograph. You drive home. That is the last day. You are 65 years old. You have worked in construction for over 4 decades. Your body tells the story of every project you ever touched. A shoulder that catches and clicks from a fall on a bridge job when you were 20. A knee that was replaced from years of climbing scaffolding. The first week you do not know what to do with the morning. Your whole life you were up at 5. Now there is no reason to be up early, but your body still wakes at the same time. You sit in the kitchen drinking coffee and looking out the window. It is still dark outside. No sight is waiting for you. You drive through the city and your work is everywhere. The hospital where your grandchild was born. You poured that foundation 2 decades ago. The bridge on the highway you cross every time you leave the house. You remember that winter tying rebar in the snow. The airport on the east side of the city. You remember the subcontractor who went bankrupt halfway through and how you handled it. This city has your fingerprints on it, and the fingerprints of every ironworker who bolted it together hundreds of feet above the street. You think about those workers often now. You think about the ones still here and the ones who are not. You think about the young apprentice who showed up on a Monday and fell on a Thursday. He never walked again. You think about the electrician who was knocked off the scaffolding by a shock on an August afternoon. You were standing 50 feet away. Those memories come more frequently as you get older. They grow louder as everything else grows quieter. Your children grew up. You missed a lot of it. You know that. They know that. Now you have time. You are learning how to use it. Some things can be made up for. Some cannot. You have made your peace with both. Your grandchild asks what you did for work. You think for a moment before answering, not because you do not know, but because you are not sure how to explain 35 years in one sentence to a 7-year-old. You tell them you built houses for people. The child nods and runs off to play. Simple as that, and true as that. Someone calls you one morning, a young worker you mentored 15 years ago. He is running his first project on his own. He has a problem and does not know how to handle it. You listen, you ask a few questions. You do not give him the answer, you help him find it himself. After you hang up, you sit quietly for a moment. He is doing exactly what you taught him. Not the technique, the way of thinking, the buildings will outlast you. You can point at something enormous and real that stands against the sky. That is the one thing this trade gives you that almost no other career can match. You did not build it with emails or presentations. You built it with your hands, your back, your knees, and your years. Somewhere right now, a 19-year-old is pulling onto a job site for the very first time. He is staring at a hole in the ground, surrounded by steel and mud and heavy machines. He does not know a single person on the crew. He does not know anything about the work ahead. Someone is about to hand him a shovel and point at the dirt without a word. This trade did not start with you, and it will not end with you. It continues.